Today, we're talking about, and I love the fact that they're able to put a press release saying remarkable in the headlines, especially when talking about a junior mining discovery. Pretty incredible coming out of the Gold Digger property.
They see a lot of visible gold here, and that's not really a big surprise, because if you look, way back to the first season I think they drilled was 2021, and they did metallurgical work shortly after that because they did see a lot of visible gold in holes. They took my advice. They did a round of metallurgy, I think, in late 21 and early 22, and then they did another one in late 22 and early 23. And both rounds of testing just hands down demonstrated absolutely fantastic recoveries. The metallurgical results to date speak volumes about the very high quality.
You'll remember Dr. Quentin Henning was on a few weeks back, and we see great movement from both of those companies being received exceptionally well. We've been working with Goliath and owned shares of Goliath for years and years. We believe in this story. We believe in the syndicate and the entire team that they've amassed. The big news, not only from back at the conferences, was the drill results, which were incredible, and we're waiting on a ton more. It was yesterday's announcement from McEwen Mining that they are coming in for, I think, 3%. So 10 million. And that is significant because, once again, you start attracting the likes of the Dr. Quentin Henning, Rob McEwen, all these kinds of names into your deal. People take that as a sign because you're attracting savvy mining investors that have done very well in the past. Certainly is information on our Substack, and I mean, there's a myriad of interviews that you can go through over the years where we've expressed our excitement as to what they were developing and they continue to develop. Part of what we do is we let people know companies that we love and we like. It's how we've done really well in the past. It's in part, we got to work with Great Bear years ago. We had great success with that. We have a framework, like a model that we use, and we have a network that we use. And that's a lot of the hard work and heavy lifting, is being able to rely on a lot of smart people and their expertise. That goes a long way. And we make sure for our subscribers that we're doing that. We're identifying risk. We're explaining the asymmetric possibility, really putting timeframes into perspective. Once you get some of these big players getting involved, as you would have saw with Great Bear, is people coming into the deal at different sections, adding more, I hate to use sort of credibility, but certainly adding a lot more flavor whenever you're getting further acknowledgement from mining billionaires and major investors saying, yes, we're acknowledging that you have something here. We want to let people know about that. Usually we keep that just for our subscribers, exactly who and how much we're buying. But we've been pretty vocal about those two. Everyone, a special Tuesday edition. Hope everyone had a great family day yesterday. Got to spend some time with family and enjoy themselves. That's we have to, especially in times that are difficult, we have to make sure that that's always the prime concern, is that we're healthy, we're in the right mindset, and we're focused. And a lot of that comes from a good, strong foundation at home and with family. And so I hope everyone had a great time. Let's just jump into gold as usual, since more and more people are coming to the table and they're realizing how critical gold is. And I think possibly the new administration south of the border is amplifying that message on different fronts. We certainly see from Goldman Sachs, they've upped their estimate now to 3,100 gold for 2025 with a high of 33. I've written a bit of an article on that as well on Substack. I think that's definitely within reach. We did a podcast here when it'll hit 3,000. I think that's very soon. We're flirting with it already. I find it interesting when I see things on Bloomberg about how, we need to pay attention to this because inflation and tariffs and whatnot. And I kind of chuckle because, gold over the past 4.5 years or so has moved from, I think, 1,600 to 2,800. And we didn't hear much about, inflation. All we've heard about is how inflation is being under control. It's just funny whenever you see, even in business news, that whether they're being purposely political or not, unfortunately, the way that news works now is that clickbait works, or that you have a reason why something happened. This is happening because this happened today. No, it's gold is going up as an obvious reaction to all of the West in deep distress, and has been. Lockdowns, of course, didn't help, but it started well before then. And anyone who actually kind of looks at the history of what's gone on, 2008 was certainly a focal point. And then, of course, people in this space would say, no, you can go further back than that. And make the argument that once you came off the gold standard, that's what started the issue. And we're not here to really to focus too much on that. Those are interesting conversations that one can have like on a separate kind of Zoom call and whatnot with subscribers. But it's not one here that we get too much into the weeds, because the further back you go, the more variables come into effect. And it's an interesting conversation, but I don't know if it really does much to hone in on what's happening today. Of course, everything from history does rhyme, although maybe not repeat. And you must have a firm foundation in history, whether it's in your social ideas, your policy, economics, or finances. It does matter. I remember whenever I was young, and I thought, why on the earth would I want to have to learn history of anything? It's critical. And there's patterns, and you can just go back. It's easy to see what's happening now is very similar to other times, certainly in the West, that you can mirror and make some comparisons to. Of course, it's never exactly the same. Why? Because we're people, and there's lots of technological advancements. There's lots of idea sharing today, which makes things a lot more difficult. Also, perhaps a lot easier. Manipulation is far easier today than it ever has been. And though these are all issues that we all have to struggle with and fight with. And that makes the case for something solid, foundational, structural being key and critical. It's fun. We always talk about the robotics and AI and all of these wonderful things, the ups and downs, the ethics sides of both those things. What can happen with AI, with drug enhancement, drug discovery. We're certainly seeing a lot out there as well regarding the mRNA and possible cancer solutions. That's way beyond my pay grade, but these are exciting things that are happening out there in the world that are the upside and positive. But also that upside positive is stressful, because the amount of information we're getting hit on, both negative and positive, is very stressful. It's stressful for the mind. And we can see the cracks in, let's just say, the U.S. in particular. Canada, it's obvious. We're living here. We understand the cracks that's happened in the last 8-9 years. In the States, it's more divisive because everything is political now. And it's unfortunate, because you wish that, say, for example, and calling something Doge is a meme on of itself. That was a mistake. The amount of people turning on Elon Musk, regardless, I don't have an opinion on the guy. I mean, so I don't care. He's a billionaire who's entering into politics to some degree. Both things I'm not huge fans of, generally speaking. That's a terrible thing to say. But I also kind of put that into perspective to people to say, listen, if you want to be either of those things, that requires a mindset that I'm not interested in. I'm simply not. So I don't have an opinion on who they would be as a human being. So I can kind of take a step back and devoid myself from, I think Elon's this, I think this politician's that. It's like, I'm not willing to devote my life like every 5 minutes, say like someone like a Soros, an Elon Musk, a Bill Gates, whoever it is. Like their day is broken up to 5-minute blocks, which is crazy to me. And that's not an exaggeration. It's literally, it's all formulated for them. They know exactly what's going to happen. And then somehow manage to have some sort of life. It's a lifestyle that, to me, it's beyond understanding. And if you want to do it, hey, good for you. But I couldn't possibly relate to that person. So my opinion on them is completely irrelevant. I like to have a bit of a work-life balance. I think most people should. And I love what I do, but never to the extent that someone like that's driven. That's another level. I think most human beings are like that. So yeah, let's not give them all that much credit or power. They're very determined, ambitious people, and that's what they're like. And those people have certain qualities, and that's great. We need people to drive things forward. I guess my point being is that why there's any debate as to auditing government agencies, why that's anyway seen as being negative. I don't understand how anyone could possibly see that as being a troubling thing. Yet that's a lot of the messaging, is how terrible this is that they're doing this, and that somehow he wants your personal information, which is also the latest kind of trope that I've seen regarding that. He could have had that with PayPal. Like he has that he could have that with so many other ways. He's not interested in that. That all of the social media companies have that information on you already. That's not a key point. There's lots of things not to like about it, but that's not one of them. So I think this distraction from actually holding government accountable is very odd, particularly since you can go back and look at like Bill Clinton, even Obama had said that you had to get rid of waste and that they were going to audit and look into things. But now that's seemingly a terrible and offensive thing and hateful thing to do. And I just find that is incredible. And this is the power of media and manipulation. And, it's shocking. In any event, that means stable, secure things are now more important than ever. And no matter what side of the table you're on things, whether or not you believe that this has been the best economic environment in the last 4 or 5 years, or whether you don't, the reality is that there's a massive debt load that's unsustainable. That's regardless of what you think of policy, whether there should be more spending, less spending, anything else. It's unsustainable. It's just math. It's numbers. It has no feelings. And if you hate the idea of all these government agencies being audited or maybe being held accountable, that means you should be buying gold, because there's going to be a mix-up. There's going to be change. If you love that idea, that means that there's a lot of work to be done, and you should probably love gold, and you should be buying. So either way I look at this, is that there's a desperate need for people to look to something safe and secure. Yes, the US dollar out there, it's your best bet right now. But beyond that, would I actively want US dollar rather than precious metals? No, I'll take gold and silver. Thank you. So that's kind of my overall breadth. I say it a lot, but I think I say it over and over again. Just because, once again, I'm not a gold bug. I don't come from that world. When I started off at Merrill Lynch, we had a gold bug in the office, and I was much younger then, had lots of hair, and I didn't understand them. I was like, I don't understand what this guy's looking at. It makes no sense to me. And that was going into 2006, 2007, 2008, where we had a huge mining run. I quickly learned why we had a gold bug and we had a mining sector in there. But because, young, you're into tech, you love all the exciting, interesting things. And that was the first period of time in which fundamentals didn't matter. We had a new model of evaluating things. You didn't have to have revenue. And looking back, when you're young, you think, oh, you're part of a movement. Yeah, things are changing. Only to realize very quickly that no, history will show you there's foundational things that have to be done. You can get caught up in things, even if you're at the likes of a Merrill Lynch, with tons of bright people, all thinking about, getting caught up in a bit of a mania of, oh my God, we're doing things differently. The future is here. And that's again, right now, the future's here. Now it's AI and robots and this and that. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of change and then a lot of not change, because there's still people involved. And when you have people involved, that's where the history comes into effect. That's what a market is. A market is partly now computers and algorithms, but it's still people are influencing that. And people don't change all that much throughout history. And we see that that's the case now with division right now. And it just makes the case for whether or not you think these things need fixing or you don't think things need fixing. Gold is a great place to be looking. And I saw a great post too, because it ties into gold and, projects. And it was specifically talking about some overspending and issues. And you could look at certainly in the nuclear side of things. I think I saw an article in Brazil. It's like a 40-year project to bring a nuclear power plant online. 40 years that's a long commitment. I haven't looked into the details of that one, but that shows like an extreme. But you hear routinely 8 years, 9 years, 10 years for, say, a nuclear power plant. You can hear that in mining mega projects. the overspend is massive. The project's taking X long. The numbers aren't adding up. The budget's blown out. And there's a post today on LinkedIn that walked through that, and it was very insightful. I thought it was really good. It was really interesting because it started from 2016 and looked at a McKinsey report and pointed out a number of big projects that have gone cost overrun. I don't think anyone's surprised when they hear a mining project going cost overrun. And those are important questions we need to talk about, because it's true. It's very easy to overrun any project, but we need to get better at it. And it isn't just placing blame. There's lots of blame on different projects, and love to hear your thoughts on projects where you think, you know what, that was management. They did that. Or ones that you think, you know what, that really wasn't. There's enough blame to go around. And so my comment on it was, if you just looked at one state, Wisconsin, there's an institute called the Badger Institute, and they looked at all the data for Wisconsin. And they talked about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It was going to put about $5.4 billion into their state. About $1.4 billion and $2.2 billion in state and federal funding, just on highway construction alone. And they saw historically cost overruns of 25 to 50% on any transportation project, along with about a 10% waste that they include. They also stated that there's a built-in 5 to 10% of fraud. And they're calling it fraud built in. So that's interesting. And this is not a new, this was April 2022. So this isn't in the heat of, let's look at Doge, let's look at this, look at that. And once their suggestion here was, it's very hard to track all the money. We don't have enough bodies to track all the money. That's with that small a budget. Now, $5 billion isn't a little bit of money. I mean, I'm being facetious here, but it is when you're talking about trillions. And when you look at the money that's missing throughout all of government. And this comes back to what we talked about. Why are people annoyed that this Doge, ridiculous name, I get it, is investigating mismanagement of funds? It's not very hard to go find, the Pentagon not ever, their audit's not going well, let's say. You can look at Jon Stewart, had a great position on that years and years ago that people would have championed and said, yeah, look at him. Why he's going after, why can't they pass an audit? Where's like hundreds of billions of dollars that are unaccounted for? This is in everything. And that should be a standard that people should be excited about. And you could sub in your billionaire. Like if you don't like Elon Musk because you think he's whatever ridiculous memes are out there, then just sub in some other one, or just sub in some regular accountant. It's strange that people are manipulated so easily. And I wanted to highlight all this together because it just comes down to that post that kind of said, hey, mining projects particularly have cost overruns. No, they don't. They don't have particularly. It's the fact that giant infrastructure projects are exceptionally difficult because you're dealing with commodities. The commodities market is not easy. If you think it is, I encourage you to do futures trading or get involved into the markets. You can make a killing if you think it's simple. You then have to deal with government and permitting and regulations, which is, even if you ask ChatGPT, the number one issue if you're trying to do a large project, even if you're the government trying to do the large project, the biggest issue you're going to face is yourself. And that's a failing of our system. And, and that's, I don't mean the obvious, well, yes, there should be checks and balances. That's a given. Yes, we should have every environmental report, water report, you name it, should be checked off. Yes. But those things are done very easily and simply. They don't take that long. They don't. It's the fact that you get a changing of new people into government who then challenge that and say, wait, it's been a year since that last report. We need to get an update on it. You have special interest groups that have more say than other people to say, no, we need to stop that project, or we're putting a lawsuit in for the next 4 years to hold that project for X period of time. We have inflation that has been going on I mean, I would argue for a very long time. It's escalated dramatically since lockdowns, but it's been going on. It's just been shifted into other areas. We're just noticing it now in the cost of food and everything else. And the reason you can bring inflation down, and I don't mean just the printing of money supply, which is obvious. Everyone knows there's been massive printing of money. But if you're of the type that says, no, it's not printing of money that causes inflation, it's the cost of goods that causes things to go up. And it's the evil corporations, then it was the technology increasing at a rapid rate so that, yeah, you could buy a computer for the same price as you could 10 years ago. It has more gizmos in it, most of which you won't use. Your Apple phone also costs relatively the same. So there hasn't been a huge inflationary price in that. But yet there's been a cost embedded in there of, look at all the extras you're getting. Look at all the technological marvel that was worth this percent. But we're seeing it now because you can't afford to live in a place like Canada. You can't buy a house here. It's exceptionally difficult. I just asked ChatGPT, if someone wanted to buy a new car and a new home in X city, Regina, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, could they do it? It basically says no. It would be highly unlikely that someone would be able to, afford both of those things right now. Would you consider a smaller apartment in XYZ? Interesting. I mean, that was kind of, and we've talked about it before. The Western dream, whether it was the American dream or Canadian dream, was that you would have jobs and be able to provide people with a chance to have that house, the white picket fence, and all of those things. That's a dream that's long gone, unfortunately, and it doesn't have to be. It just is, and that's one maybe we should get back to. And in part, we see the likes of a China who's dominating now because guess what? They don't have to go through all the steps required to get things done, and they can meet, say, with nuclear, all the international standards. They're not cutting corners on that. But as far as planning and feasibility studies, budgeting, governments and leadership, yeah, there's a lot of self-governing issues there in China that if you're running the project to get something done, I'm pretty sure your life's on the line. So, and I'm saying it kind of humorously because I don't live there, thank God. But you're being held responsible. Here, no one's held responsible for anything. Your politicians aren't held responsible for any oversight and budget. The government's not held responsible. No body of any government agency is held responsible for any spend or any success metric or ratio. And even companies now aren't being held responsible. And that's a failure of society in general. And why does this matter? Once again, because it isn't just that the economic department or the finance department of a major project somehow doesn't know how to forecast. The job of forecasting a project that might be 5 years to get a mine up. Say you think it's going to be 5 years. I'm being very optimistic. And you budget that. That's 5 years of commodity prices, of inflation, of what and currently now, can you tell what North America is going to look like in 5 years? You would get such a disparate range from the average person, never mind an analyst, because there's so much change happening. It's exceptionally difficult, and I'm not giving anyone a pass. Yes, there's lots of improvements that can be done. AI is going to help. There's lots of different technology that one can implement, whether you are at a mine site, and if you are really challenging that technological boundary and really pushing it, you're going to have a lot more success. We should be holding people to a higher standard to say, yes, we should be able to get this done. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with major infrastructure projects, these massive types of things, it involves government, which then means it's a blame game, and then you're fighting. And if you control the media, which to a large part they do, it's tough. It's a very tough situation. And you could say easily in the history, in the past, you'd say, well, it was the other way around. The big corporations, the big mining industrialists, the Rockefellers, they owned the media and they kind of held back the little man. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the past you could point to. It's just flipped the other way now. I think people need to challenge their thoughts on things and to look back through history and to study things and look at it from a different angle and think, is it really all just this thing here? Or are there many things at play? and who's the message coming from, what's their motives, what's their angle. That's all part of that critical reasoning, critical thinking. What we call that market mindset is constantly having to challenge ourselves. And believe me, if I spending so much time in the mining area, which most of the world doesn't care about, they don't even know about. It's not even remotely in their radar, even with the amount of work being done to promote critical metals and whatnot. It's such a small minority that understand what that is. It would take so much effort to get people on board. I can get caught up and really tunnel visioned in, why don't people get this? I don't understand. It's because they've got so many more things to think about and be concerned about, and most of it well beyond their control. And that's a downside of social media, the ability to distract, to keep people talking about things that really aren't important and that you don't have any control of. But I guess you get to let off some steam by writing stuff in a social media post, which I think also just shows a lack of accountability for most people, often, because we see, whether it's bullying or anything else that we see online. I think everyone knows, online can often be pretty toxic. But that's the dark side of things. It can also be very positive. And say a LinkedIn is much more positive because, say with the post today, you see a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, but what about this? Oh yeah, what about this?" That's where it's interesting, and that's that engagement where someone will say, listen, I don't really agree with you. I think permitting is the number one problem. Or someone says, no, I think it's that these models that they're using are outdated, and this is why. You go, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. That's the engagement that we should be encouraging, not the rhetoric of, oh, I think you're totally wrong because of X, Y, Z. It's like, no. We should be trying to encourage people to look at things we can do better in mining. And the more we focus on that, the more people will show interest in it, to not just that we're glossing over things that are challenging or difficult, but also to realize how challenging and difficult it is. Major infrastructure projects, once again, if it's a bridge, look at some of these mega projects in China, like the logistics needed, it's absolutely phenomenal. And those can get done in a hurry in China because they don't have anyone stopping them. Like if some NGO says we're going to challenge you, they ignore it. They just get things done because they've got a larger vision. And a lot of people say, well, that's not the way to do things. Well, all depends what your vision is. What's more important? Do you have a bigger vision of what the West should be, or do you not? And I would say if you have a long-term vision that you believe that climate change is impactful, and you believe that we need to have alternative energies, that we need to have a supply chain that we can count on, and that we need to be responsible for that, well, then there has to be some meeting space there. And that means we have to have a longer term vision to say, you know what? We can't just let any small issue of a cactus or some sort of special beetle stop a project. That's my opinion. Tell me what your thoughts are. That's, once again, that's the engagement we're interested in, because, yeah, some of it matters. Some of it, to me, not so much. I have a longer term vision. I think that it's important that we have that longer term vision. Nothing's easy when you're dealing with extractive or real business. And I always point to, you look at big tech, their motto is do it. They do it at scale, then try and come after me. And it works. They get so big that you can't stop them. And once again, you might think that that's nefarious. It's not very nice. It's big, bad capitalism. But if you want to get things done in the type of environment that we live in the West now, where so many factors can affect you to stop you, and some of them self-destructive, it's not very helpful. And that means that our competitors, our enemies, our other states that aren't wishing the best for us, and pick which ones you don't like. I don't care whether it's Russia, it's China, whoever. I don't mind, whichever one you want. That's advantageous to them. And I think when people start to get a bit more out of the, and I don't see it coming soon because things are getting far more divisive than they're getting anyway, unified. we need to see some change, and I think that change is coming. So if you're from my perspective, there's lots of good things happening and good things to come. If you're not, you'll probably be more likely distracted by social things rather than what's happening in the economy or finance. And you're probably not listening to me anyway at all. So that's me done today. I've babbled on for far too long. Lots of interesting things happening. I'll leave it with this as well. There was a comment about Barrick maybe moving headquarters to the U.S. That's an interesting play. I would love people's thoughts on that. Wrote a little bit about it on Friday, I believe. Is it that it's a threat? Are they saying, hey, if you don't smarten up here in Canada, change some of these regulations, change some of these laws, make it a bit more accessible and investable? Because right now, people aren't terribly interested in investing in Canada. If we need to move, we're going to move. That's a big message. That's a big message that Canada has to hear. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you think it's a threat, if you think it's real, if it is that you just think that they recognize that they'll get opportunities for investment dollars in the U.S. that they just don't get in Canada. I've had discussions with people about, hey, should we be setting up some sort of capital markets type of thing to get access to Australia? How much would that cost? Because Canadians aren't investing in their natural resources. Australians are. They get it. They understand. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'll leave it at that. Send us a message, type away, send it on, and have a great week. It's a busy one here in PDEX coming up soon. There's going to be lots of news flow. Hope you're all doing well, and take care.
We drilled it expecting to get more, 1.5% nickel type thing, which would be fine, which would be great. you get a lot of happy people finding a 1.5% nickel. Nonetheless, what we found was something quite completely different. We found our discovery hole was almost 8 meters of what was about 1 ounce PGMs, 1.5% copper, and it was 60 meters from surface. So it was quite a surprise, and obviously a happy surprise. We hit some amazing holes, really, each one sort of better than the next. We had, I don't know, at least, 5 or 6 holes of 10 meters or 10% copper equivalent or better, some over 20%. Unheard of holes, really, anywhere in the world, in the history of the world. So that's how good it was. And, so that, made us really sort of rethink what we had here.